The following program contains shocking portrayals of action. If you suffer from cowardice, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your video game supplier.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. The only TV host arrested more times than Mahatma Gandhi, Randall Terry.
I just came from the State of the Union address. I think I threw up in my mouth. He makes me sick. We'll talk about it in today's program. But first, a word from a man who has more wisdom in his upper lip than Obama has in his whole body. And note how small the lip is.
Them pansy bottom 501c3 pro-life groups, they gotta stop raising money for themselves and get a little backbone and muscle. Heck, I tell you what, they gotta get out there and chop some musk thistle for a day. It's gonna teach them hard work, sweat, and perseverance. Seems to me they just a bunch of city slick and tenderfoot.
Welcome to the program, friend. I'm going to look at President Obama's State of the Union address for a few minutes. But before I do that, I want to say something to you. There are literally hundreds of websites right now that you can go to analyze the president's speech. So if that is really of interest to you, I suggest that you do it. What I want to talk to you about today will go a little bit deeper into you, into how you and I, as Americans, respond to this man, to his agenda, to his blatant lies and half-truths in our own lives, with our friends, with our family, with our co-workers. What is our response? So get ready to hold on to your seat because there's some heavy stuff coming, I'll tell you that right now. But first, a couple of things. Number one, when the president spoke of the bipartisan work that they had done by raising taxes and cutting spending so that the deficit has now been reduced by $2.5 trillion. I want you to understand something very clearly. The deficit has not been reduced at all. What they're doing is projecting the rate of the growth of the deficit, okay? How much is the deficit going to keep ballooning? Well, look at what we've done. We've shrunk the speed at which it's growing. We've got deficit reduction. It's a play on words. It's a fabrication, or if I wanted to say it perhaps more accurately, it's a lie, okay? If the deficit is still going up, it's still going up. The fact that by raising taxes and by a few minuscule cuts, they brought the rate of increase down a little bit. Mind you, the rate of increase, it's still increasing, but the rate of increase has been brought down a little bit. That is not a reduction of the deficit. It's not. And this brings me to the thing that I want to talk about, namely this. That we have been so distracted, we have been so poisoned in our souls by bread and circuses, sports, Whitney Houston, all of these things that distract us and preoccupy our time, texting on our phones, Facebook, Google, online, emails. We're inundated constantly, all right, with circuses. And it's numbed us and helped distract us from the things that really matter. And also, I believe, please God save us, from critical thinking. 100 years ago, when we did not have television and internet, and we barely had phone service in a lot of areas, people got their information from newspapers primarily. Radio was starting to make it big. And word of mouth. People went to public meetings. People talked to each other. People debated. People went to hear political speeches. They were engaged in the process. They could actually explain to you the policy differences from one candidate to another. We've lost that. And because we have lost it, it makes us a prey, okay? A P-R-E-Y, a prey to lies, to propaganda, to misstatements, to bumper sticker sloganeering from Democrats, excuse me, and Republicans alike. It sets us up. We've set ourselves up to be duped. So, if you could sum up the President's State of the Union address in 2 words, ready? It would be tax, spend. Those 2 words. Boil down the essence of everything that he's talking about. At the end of the day, it's about the government getting money in order to spend money, to redistribute the wealth with this myriad of public expenditures that he's talking about. And one other thing, every time he says the word investment, okay, we're going to invest in the infrastructure, think, spend money. And then think, where is this money coming from? Most of it comes from the taxpayer. About 1/3 of it comes from borrowing. We are borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and printing money as fast as we can, which is making inflation just go up, up, up. Friends, we're going to have to pay this piper. At some point, there is going to be economic hell to pay. And what terrifies me about this man and about this presidency is that I believe we have crossed a threshold from which there will be no easy return. There is not going to be an easy return. There will be hell to pay for these policies. And he's not the only one. The Republicans are a part of this as well. Don't kid yourself. But there's going to be hell to pay. And unfortunately, Obama is writing checks that he intends to cash with our currency. He's going to put the burden of those checks on our backs. It's going to be us, our children, our grandchildren, that pay the horrific price for the insanity of this State of the Union address and, more importantly, the agenda. I'm going to take a break, and I ask you to ponder this question. What can what can I do about this, Randall? I'm just one person, I'm just one man, I'm just one woman. What can I do? I'm going to give you some ideas. Don't go away.
Napoleon used to come into Randall's office waving his arms in the air like a madman. And Randall finally got fed up and said, "Look, General, if you really want to have respect and mystique, put your hand inside your coat like this."
Friend, you need to get this book, We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy, and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you.
Obama. It's time for you to break on through to the other side. I said, yeah, 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 Randall Terry.
Welcome back, friend. What do you call someone who does evil? There's a name in the Bible. Do you know that? It is evildoer. Someone who does evil is an evildoer. Now, I will not take your time right now to delineate every single act of evil that this president has done, all right? But for the sake of this discussion, I want to presume for a minute that Obama is what the Bible calls an evildoer. Here's my question to you. What are you going to invest in your time, in your words, in your reputation, in your relationships, in family stress, stress with coworkers? What are you going to invest to say out loud that Obama is an evildoer? Again, if you don't think Obama's an evildoer, this is not for you, okay? But if you do believe that he is an evildoer, what will you invest? What skin will you put in the game to resist him and his agenda? Diversity training, tolerance, multiculturalism, relativism have all taken a massive toll on the church militant. Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. And then he went on to say, I have come to set a mother against her daughter, a father against his son, a mother-in-law against her in-law children. Jesus actually said, I have come to bring division, clash. Why? Because of the ethics at stake. The scripture says that for this reason was the Son of God manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. What are the works of the devil? The devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy, okay? Obama's stealing our money to redistribute it. He's killing unborn babies. He's destroying our liberties right before our very eyes. And Boehner and most of the Republican establishment are going along with him. So this is a nonpartisan attack, by the way. But at the tip of the spear politically right now, it's Obama. Obama being used by the Prince of Darkness, or at least in league with him, to steal, to kill, and to destroy. Jesus came to destroy the works of the devil. If we're going to be like Christ, to destroy something requires conflict. It requires controversy. It requires confrontation. And those are the very elements that are the fare for the journey in the church militant that we are afraid to embrace. We're afraid of controversy. We're afraid of conflict. We don't want somebody saying, well, you're intolerant, or you think you're right, and you think that you're better than everyone else, or you're unkind, or you're unmerciful, or Jesus said we're just supposed to love everybody, or. Diversity training, multiculturalism, tolerance, these things have gutted, literally carved the guts out of the Christian community so that we have failed in our duty before God and man to uphold the truth, to defend human life without flinching. And so, if you believe that Obama is an evildoer, I'm with you, he is. When is the last time that you wrote a letter to the editor that had your name? That you called a talk show? Or let's get way more personal, because you can throw those salvos at a distance. But when's the last time that you had a discussion like that with family members, with coworkers, with neighbors? Obviously, we want to live peacefully with all men as much as we can, and that's a good thing. But peace at the price of truth and justice is not just peace, it's surrender. If you're the French and the Nazis have rolled in, you can have peace. You just have to surrender and get used to having a swastika embroidered boot on the back of your neck. Still peace. And he might even let you up, as long as you agree to submit. So a desire to have peace is not inherently good if it comes at the cost of truth and justice. So I'll make this really personal. What price have you paid for resisting Obama and the big government agenda that is destroying the lives of the innocent, attacking our family, trying to crush the expression of Christian and Judeo-Christian truth from the public square? What price have you paid? Who's mad at you? Who hates you? Who won't talk to you anymore? Those questions will give you a fairly good assessment as to what you are and are not saying. When I come back from this break, I want to talk about Winston Churchill. Don't go away.
Submit to Muhammad.
Friend, you need to get this book. We Won't Get Fooled Again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you.
What is the use of living, if it be not to strive for noble causes and to make this muddled world a better place to live after we are gone? Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back to the program, friend. I believe that Winston Churchill was the towering figure of the last century. And if you are a reader, and certainly if you're a leader, I encourage you to get William Manchester's 3-volume set, The Last Lion. All right, The Last Lion. If you are in ministry, if you're a pastor, if you are a leader of any type of an activist group, in my opinion, outside of the scriptures, the second most important book that you could read is The Last Lion alone. I have read it over and over, annotated it, I refer back to it, because Churchill shows what to do and what to say in the hour when those actions and words are true and just and are reviled and hated. Many people remember Churchill's words saying, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, sweat, and tears." He uttered those words right after he became prime minister. What most people who have not studied the 1930s and Churchill's life don't understand is that his greatest speeches, his most heroic efforts were in 1934 and 35 and 36 and 37 and 38, when he was completely on the outs with the people that were in power. He spoke against not only the leaders of His Majesty's government, he spoke against the leaders of his own party. He put principle ahead of party. He was mocked, ridiculed, vilified. They called him a warmonger, a fearmonger. They said he had a screw loose because he kept saying, Germany's going to engulf us all in another war. We've got to hem Hitler in now and destroy him. This was in the mid-30s when everyone was saying, well, Churchill, shut up, go away. There's not going to be another Great War. There's not going to be another World War. Churchill saw it, and he spoke the truth. And most people vilified him for it. But it was precisely because he had the courage to speak the truth when the truth was unpopular that it qualified him to earn the trust and respect of people when all hell broke loose. If we're going to be credible, we have to say the truth when the truth is not popular and follow Christ's example and his exhortations to us, which I will talk about when I come back from this break. Don't go away.
O Lord, thou God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up, O judge of the earth. Render to the proud their deserts. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult?
Friend, you need to get this book. We won't get fooled again. Listen to this. I came to the conclusion that most folks were left over from the Reagan era who were no longer warriors, but are now either too old or unhealthy and had compromised and become comfortable with the Republican establishment. They turned these organizations pretty much into direct mail fundraising fronts and were making tons of money and living the good life in beautiful mansions. The conservative movement had transformed itself from a very dynamic, principled organization in the Reagan years to a bunch of compromising, useless, and ineffective money-making machines. I'm reading to you from the new blockbuster book, We Won't Get Fooled Again, that names names, shows organizations, shows how they say that they're Christian, but they betray Christ, they betray biblical principles in the public square, and we are funding them. Go to the website, call us on the phone, and order it today. I'll send it to you for free if you want. God bless you. Welcome back to the program, friend. Some of you may or may not know this, but a little historical fact. I founded and led the group Operation Rescue, the movement, the rescue movement, which from about 1987 to 1994 accumulated nationwide over 75,000 arrests. There were over 75,000 arrests for peaceful civil disobedience in that 7-year window. I personally have been arrested around 50 times, spent over a year of my life behind bars for peaceful protest. By contrast, so that you understand the breadth of a movement of that size, the civil rights movement under the great late Dr. Martin Luther King racked up about 7,000 arrests, okay? So the rescue movement, the pro-life movement, Operation Rescue, in the scope of numbers of people arrested was 10 times the size of the civil rights movement. The difference is they prevailed. They broke the back of the Jim Crow laws and of segregation, and they won. God bless them for their efforts and their sacrifice. We didn't win. We lost. We tried. I believe we could have prevailed. There were elements of treachery. That's for another show. I'm telling you that for this reason. I was a man in my young 20s, young to mid-20s, when God tapped me on the shoulder and called me to lead that effort. But that was in 1983. That was 10 years into the Holocaust. I believe with all my heart that God had tapped other men and women on the shoulder before me. I really do. I believe that there were other people. I was not God's first choice to lead that movement. I'm convinced in my heart that I was not. The thing that I did was I said yes. And I'm challenging you. Jesus said, if you save your life, you will lose it. If you lose your life for his sake, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of truth, you find it. Jesus said, We have to take up our cross and follow him and die to ourselves. And that includes the death of reputation. When you're hanging on a cross, humiliated, that's the end of reputation. We are called to follow Christ in that example. And in the demise of this country, which is happening right before our eyes, one of the greatest crises that we face is the absence of men and women willing to rebuke Obama publicly, to stand against this agenda, and be willing to die to their own reputation. Consider what it is that you could do if you will follow Christ and say, Lord, I'll give up my reputation. I'll lay down my life for you.